Hello and welcome. You are watching CBSE Class 9 English course on Learnify Me. And in this video, we are going to be discussing William Butler Yeats' poem Lake Isle of Innisfree. Let's begin. Let us talk about the poet William Butler Yeats. 20th century के one of the greatest poets हुआ करते थे ये. He was born in June 1865 and passed away in January 1939 after his career in prose, drama and poetry. His work was incredibly influential in Ireland as well as around the world. ये पोइट्री जो है वो 1888 में लिखी गई थी लेकिन पब्लिश हुई थी 1893 में. He lived the experiences of the poem along the countryside. उसकी जो फेवरेट प्लेस थी वो थी काउंटी स्लिगो where the real Isle of Innisfree can be found. Let us now read the poem which depicts poet's longing, a strong desire to leave the city and spend time in the island. The poem has 12 lines separated in 3 quatrains. The tone is very much admiring. Let us read the poetry and enjoy. I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles mad. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the waves of the morning to where the crickets sing. Their midnights all a glimmer, and a noon a purple glow, and evenings full of linnets' wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Now let us understand the first stanza of the poem. It says, I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree. Can you see the word go, which has been used twice in this line? The word go, why it is repeated? Because it is, Yeats has made the choice to provide special emphasis on the importance of the poet's action. The poet is very much determined that he must and he will go to Innisfree. Right? Now let's look at the second line. And a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. Can you see the cabin? Word cabin. Cabin means hut, a small hut, okay, which is been made from clay and water. What does a clay means? You know very well. Clay which is baked, okay, जो घर बनाने के लिए काम आती है. And wattles जो डहनियाँ होती है, twigs होती हैं पेड़ की, कोई भी निकली हुई, उससे एक घर बनाएंगे पोएट. जो पोएट बोल रहे हैं विलियम बटलर येट्स, ये कह रहे हैं कि एक मैं छोटा सा घर बनाऊंगा खुद के लिए. यहाँ पे ये जो वर्ड है स्मॉल विच इम्प्लीफाइज वेरी क्लियरली एंड लीव्स अस विद द इम्प्रेशन दैट ही इज गोइंग टू लिव अलोन इन दिस हाउस. नोबडी एल्स वुड बी शेयरिंग दिस हाउस विद हिम, नीदर फ्रेंड्स, रिलेटिव्स, एक्सटेंडेड, nobody else. So now let's look at the third line. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee loud glade. Once he's living in a small cabin, he dreams of having 9 rows of bean plants. You see, 9 का कोई importance नहीं है, ये सिर्फ rhyme के लिए उन्होंने 9 शब्द use किया है. So he's saying कि 9 bean rows of bean plants of hive, presumably मैनी हनी बीज. वो कह रहे हैं कि मैं बहुत ज़्यादा एक हनी बी हाइव बनाऊंगा, बहुत ज़्यादा बीज आएंगी. एज एन नेक्स्ट लाइन इट सेज अ ग्लैड. नाउ व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय ग्लैड? ग्लैड का मतलब होता है कि एक खाली सी जगह होती है, आसपास बड़े पेड़ होते हैं फॉरेस्ट के बीच में. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड अ स्मॉल क्लियरिंग इन अ फॉरेस्ट, दैट्स कॉल्ड ग्लैड. is filled with their sound. Whose sound? Honeybees. Bees के sound से this is how it is going to be filled. So that's the first stanza which talks about his longing and how he plans to live there. Now let us look at the second quatrain, which provides a reason behind his desire to travel to Innisfree, to find some peace there. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow. Look, the first line says it. That I shall have some peace there. A peace comes dropping slow. The repetition of the word peace has been done deliberately just to create a metaphorical relationship between the notion of peace and nature. You see, dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning. These are very important words here. Dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. How? जैसे पता है एक घूंघट होता है दुल्हन का, तो जैसे वो बहुत धीरे से ऐसे अनवेल होता है, तो ये कहने कि वो जो वेल है, वो घूंघट है, उस तरह से वहाँ से कैसे मिस्ट होता है, फॉगी सा दिखाई देता है। तो वैसे ही कह रहे कि जो मॉर्निंग रहेगी वो वैसी रहेगी, दैट इज पीस फॉर हिम. And irony, look at the ironical thing over here which poet has used here. Usually peace मतलब शांति होती है, लेकिन वहाँ पे क्रिकेट का क्रिकेट इज एन इंसेक्ट, यू नो वेरी वेल, राइट? तो क्रिकेट जो है उनकी आवाज से, द मोमेंट ही सिंग्स, दैट इज पीस फॉर हिम ओवर हियर. Okay, and continuing on that, the poet describes 3 more times of the day, that is their midnights all a glimmer, noon a purple glow, and evenings full of linnet's wings. What is that? A sequence. You see the sequence that further emphasizes on the importance of the daydream to the speaker. How he is daydreaming, कि जो रात रहेगी बिल्कुल ही तारों वाली ग्लीमरी रहेगी, जो नून रहेगा वो ऐसे रेडिश सा हो जाएगा, पर्पल ग्लो हो जाएगा, और जो शाम रहेगी वो मुझे लिनेट इज अ बर्ड बाय द वे. ओके, you can google, you'll find a picture there. I've tried to include small picture here. Okay, so that is a bird. Then the imagery calls up a sequence. In the you see the midnight which is glimmers, it's very shiny, noontime glows purple, evening which is full of beating of linnet's wings. And that's how the sequence of imagery, very strong imagery, has been used here. So second stanza is something which provides a reason of his desire. Now let's look at the third stanza and the last stanza of the poem, which says, I will rise and go now for always night and day. See the first line. It is this point that the poet shakes himself out from his daydream, in which he describes the scenes of the lake isle of Innisfree and begins to address the real world. Okay, he reinforced the time, that always, all the time, all the nights and the days, all the days I would get up and go now. However, the rest of the stanza reveals the Innisfree is not merely a dream, but rather a desperate need. I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds of the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement grey. You see, this is very much important, okay? The phrase over here, roadway and the pavement grey, these phrases. I hear it in the deep heart's core. That being said, his memories of Innisfree haunt him night and day. He could always hear in his mind the sound of lake water lapping against the shore. The poet calls the sound low because Innisfree is a distant memory. कितनी भी डिस्टेंट मेमोरी है, फेंट हो गई है, लेकिन फिर भी जो डेज उन्होंने वहाँ स्पेंड किए हैं वो मेमोरीज उनकी पावरफुल है, एंड वो उनको बहुत डेस्परेटली एक्सट्रीम नीड दिखा रही है कि आई शुड गो एंड विजिट Innisfree now. Now the third line of the stanza suggests that the speaker is tired of living in the city. He could hear the call from the island deep in his heart while standing on the roadway. You see, the word roadway and the pavement implies city here. Okay? The phrase pavement's grey stand in contrast to the colorful island of Innisfree. The phrase reveals a poet's feelings towards the city life. Life in city is very dull, concrete, grey ऐसी लगती है, लेकिन Innisfree जिसके बारे में इन्होंने बात की है, वहाँ की लाइफ काफ़ी ब्यूटीफुल, मीनिंगफुल और लाइवली लगने लगती है उनको. The constant repetition of the action leaving his home to create a new one presents a question to the reader's mind whether he is actually ever going to go. Has this dream been something he is now going to realize, or does he only exist in his mind? These questions remain pertinent as the poem concludes. Now let us analyze the poetry. You know, I told you at the first itself that the poem consists of 12 lines separated into 3 quatrains. Okay, now what is a quatrain? It is a verse. From that is made up of 4 lines, 15 different possible rhyme schemes. So let's look at the rhyme scheme here. Now let us analyze the poem on the basis of poetic devices. So first understand the title of the poetry. The title says the Lake Isle of Innisfree. Isle, because poets are given poetic license, they have the freedom to use the words in such a manner. But I request every student to use island rather than isle. Okay. Now let us look at the first line. Look at the rhyme scheme of it. Innisfree rhymes with honey bee, free bee. Made rhymes with glad. So it's A, B A B. Yeah, let's give it a name. Free A, B A. Then mad and glad, B B. Now slow, glow. Slow rhymes with glow. So let's give it number as C C. Sings wings, D D. Yeah, it's pretty much understandable, and the rhyme, the whole poem is rhythmic and lyrical enough. Okay, the tone of the poetry is very much admiring. He's admiring Innisfree, the desire to go there. Now let us look at the other devices of the poem. That is the first line, I will arise and go now. That is something which is talking about refrain. Okay, that is refrain, because the line is repeated here. Now what do you mean by refrain? Usually it gets repeated the conclusion of the paragraph or the stanza. Okay, back to back, the conclusion, the line gets repeated, but here you see the refrain is used over here and here. Now let's look at the other device. The other device is this. You see in this line, I hear the lay quarter lapping with low. The sound of L is prominent here. That is consonant sound. So when there is consonant sound, okay, with the first letter, that is L, that is alliteration. Alliteration. First say you say pitter patter. Papa is repeated. That's called alliteration here. Now let's look at the other one. Now can you see this? Okay, alliteration, few more alliteration are here. A hive for honeybee, live alone in the bee loud glade. You see hive, her, sound H is prominent here. Here, live alone in the bee loud glade. You see again the sound of L is prominent. That is alliteration. That's alliteration here. Okay. Now let us talk about another device. Let's spot the C. Wails of the morning and deep heart score. That is, so wails of the morning. First understand what metaphor is. Metaphor का मतलब ये होता है कि जब हम कोई भी चीज़ compare करते हैं, compare हम करते हैं, indirect comparison होता है, ठीक है, most of the time. जैसे कि अगर हमने बोल दिया कि ये इतनी ठंडी है, लेकिन ये ठंडी किस तरह, it seems like it is an ice cream. Okay, it is an ice cream. हमने किसी को बता देना, you imply someone with a direct comparison of that person. For example, आपके क्लास में कोई बहुत ही तेज़ भागता है, तो हम उसको बोल देंगे कि he is Mikha Singh of my class. Somebody who sings wonderfully. For example, we say Lata Mangeshkar is the cuckoo of India, okay, or nightingale of India. So that is metaphor. Lata Mangeshkar is compared with nightingale. It is not just, she is not just compared, rather she is implied, being one with that person. Okay, so that way ये मेटाफोर यहाँ पे कौन सा यूज़ किया गया है? एक है वेल्स ऑफ द मॉर्निंग, जो बता रहे हैं नाइट को रेफर कर रहे हैं, हम यहाँ पे उस नाइट को रेफर कर रहे हैं कि ड्रॉपिंग फ्रॉम द वेल्स ऑफ द मॉर्निंग वेरी स्लोली, misty, foggy, things which we understood while we had the explanation of the second stanza. The second one is the deep heart score. Here what is compared? Desire. The desire to go to Innisfree is compared with deep heart score. It is referred like that way. Now let us look at another one. Do you know personification? Now when I say personification, what is personification? Personification is something जो personify करता है चीज़ें, ठीक है, जो पर्सोनीफाई करता है. व्हाट इज पर्सोनीफाई? पर्सन, शब्द में ही बता दिया गया है पर्सन, यानी ह्यूमन एट्रीब्यूट्स हम देते हैं इन लोगों को, इनएनिमेट ऑब्जेक्ट्स को जो ह्यूमन एट्रीब्यूट्स नहीं कैरी करते हैं. जैसे क्रिकेट है तो वो तो सिर्फ आवाज़ करता है, वो सिंगिंग नहीं करता है, तो दैट सिंगिंग इज अ ट्रेट ऑफ ह्यूमन. लेकिन क्रिकेट सिंग्स, ऐसा हमने पर्सोनीफाई किया है, इसमें पोएट ने क्रिकेट सिंग्स को पर्सोनीफाई किया. नाउ so the characteristics of human been attributed to these objects. Now let us talk about another one, the imagery. You see the imagery, ऑडिटरी और विजुअल इमेजरी, काफ़ी साउंड यूज़ की गई है यहाँ पे. और ये पोएट जो है विलियम बटलर येट्स, he is famous for imagery. Okay, he is very well renowned poet for imagery, he uses strongly. So you see there are midnights all a glimmer and noon a purple glow, evenings full of linnet's wings. The complete visual imagery so powerfully used. Now you see here, it is quite auditory imagery. Be loud, glad. Cricket sings. It's auditory imagery. Yeah. So imagery is being used in the whole poetry very powerfully. So to conclude with, this poem creates an interest among all the readers to adopt the nature in their lives and to live life in natural environment. Thank you for listening me patiently, and at the same time, if you like the explanation, don't forget to give like, share and subscribe. Along with that, if you have any doubts, do put it into comment box. Okay? Bye. Happy learning.